today. Rob Havenstein and Christian Rosebloom will be limited. Kevin Dotson will be out, and so will Kobe Durant.
What's Kevin Dotson's status?
He's got a foot.
Right. Do you think he'll practice escalate a little bit, or?
Well, we'll see how the week progresses. That's the hope, expectation. So, if we are a little careful with him, but we do expect him to make it.
Obviously, there's a lot of pride with the preparation that you do out here. But when you go back and you look at the second half of the film from Sunday night, you gain confidence knowing that, these guys were all out when you made the comeback.
Yeah, no, I was proud of the group, like I mentioned after the game. I thought they did a great job of, especially when it goes to 17-3 to go on a 17-point run. Thought there was complimentary football on display. Ultimately, we didn't finish, and there were some opportunities to be able to do that, but I was really proud of the resilience, the mental toughness, all the things that we talked about, and I think the film illustrated that as well.
See the way that Tyler Johnson stepped up on Sunday with Coach Yarber. What makes his ability to get guys ready in a situation like that as far as stepping up?
I think it's the clarity that he provides. Coach Yarber, we've been together. This is our 8th year. He's an excellent coach. He's connected with his guys. They know how much he cares about them first and foremost as a person. And then I think Nate Shieldhouse and Rob Calabrese do a great job. And so TJ ultimately delivered. I thought the shallow cross that he converts to a 60-plus yard gain was big, but he made a handful of other plays, did some good things without the ball. But it's always about, all right, making sure that you're ready for those opportunities if some unforeseen circumstances arise. I thought TJ did a great job of being able to maximize the time that Puka was out to be able to get better and to get a lot more reps than he would have gotten otherwise, and I thought it showed the way he played.
What is that connection between you and Cooper's story right now, but in terms of keeping dimensions to your passing game, how key has it been to have a couple of veteran players this time around, Marcus, Tyler, who have performed, who have contributed?
I think it's really important. And so, the game the other day was such an outlier for how we had to play, how we had to adjust. I've never been a part of circumstances quite like that. But I've also probably, that's as proud as I've been of the group's ability to be able to adjust and to say, all right, hey, everything we were going to do, rip it up and adjust. And the guys seamlessly handled that. And I think it's a credit to our players to give ourselves a chance, down 14 points, and they had a lot of momentum at that point, and to be able to take the lead with 4.5 minutes to go. Now, there's no moral victories, but I don't think it's an all or nothing thing either. Like, you can't gain anything from games unless you get the result you're hoping for. That to me is not something that I believe in either. Do we want to go win and get the results? Of course, but to go back to the original question about the dimensions, it's really important. And we want to be able to have all 5 eligibles get involved. We want to be able to do what we think is best to be able to move the football and score points. And so how that's reflected and illustrated this week, we shall see, and I sure hope we stay healthier.
What does that wide receiver group gain by having Cooper accompany?
I think just an example. I think in a lot of instances, Sarah, being able to see what it looks like is more powerful than any words you can say. I always think the best teachers go off of the film. You guys have heard me talk about whether it's Cooper, Aaron, the best leaders, they model the way. They pick and choose their spots to be able to say things, but I see better than I hear, and I think that's a great way of articulating what Cooper means to those guys because of the way that he moves and goes about his business, and really his weekly and daily and hourly rhythm is focused on consistently improving and enjoying the opportunities that this presents.
Sean, on Monday you talked about having a mindset to get yourself where you need to be in preparation for Arizona. You've also said don't let a team beat you twice.
Yep.
Can you talk about that process between Monday and where you stand today?
I think that's what's so great about the NFL is whether we had gotten the result or whether we came up short like we did, it's about how you move forward. How are we where our feet are planted? And all these things are so easy to say, but it takes great discipline, great mental stamina to be able to do it and to recommit and to be able to say, let's pour everything that we have into this. Let's understand it's about the progress, continuing to focus on those things that we can control, not what we can't control. And I've really liked, up to this point, these guys come back in the building, we get back really late from Detroit, but they got a great look in their eye, and I think they're excited about, preparing the right way to ultimately put ourselves in a position to perform as well as we can. Yeah, so I do know. Dylan was a guy that we had a lot of respect for coming out of college. Had some traits and characteristics, had some really good things. He's obviously been under great tutelage with Jeff Stoutland in Philadelphia, and so that was one. Ty and Secchi we're very familiar with, and so he was a guy. I thought he played really well in 22. He's like, he's timeless, you know. He's kind of still doing his thing, and it's great to be able to see him. I was actually with him in Washington when I was the OC.
Wow.
So he's been he's been lasting for a while, right? You know, and then Jaron Christian is a guy that's played a lot of football, started a handful of games for Cleveland last year. And so those were the guys that we felt like were the best available based on the parameters at which we could acquire players. And so that was how we landed on those three.
You've had success against the Cardinals the last couple of years by stopping Kyler Murray, keeping him contained. In the film against Buffalo, you got loose a couple times.
Yeah.
They almost pulled off that win. Is that where it starts again on Sunday?
Oh, he's a nightmare to prepare for, and he's so dangerous because he can beat you in the pocket, and then obviously if you lose a rush lane, he's so explosive. I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, he made a handful of plays off schedule, but that's been consistent throughout the course of his career. And so being able to do things to try to make him uncomfortable, easier said than done, but that's always going to be a key because he's the focal point of their offense. They've obviously got some great playmakers, and I think Drew does a great job of being able to mix it up personnel-wise and keeping you off balance. But if you allow him to be able to find openings, he can certainly make you pay by extending plays, keeping his eyes down the field, or like you alluded to against Buffalo, with his legs creating explosives and then still being able to get out of bounds and not even take a hit.
Coach, I can imagine going into a game and having to rip up the game plan because of injuries. How much pressure is there on you to find resolutions or answers in real time?
Well, that's your job, you know, and I think that's what, you know, we're tasked to do. You know, we didn't just sign up for, all right, hey, if everybody stays healthy, this is what you do. You know, I thought just what we ask of our players, we need to be able to do as coaches: flexibility, agility, some fluidity within the framework of the game. And I was proud of our coaches. Certainly, there's still always things that, you know, when I look at myself critically from a decision-making standpoint, there's always things you go back. How do you want to sequence things? What are the parameters around which you had to make some of those decisions? How are you communicating, you know, to be able to connect with your coaches and your players so they understand what the intent is? So I don't know if you look at it as pressure. I think you look at it as, hey, that was the circumstance that we were dealt, and you're just kind of in the moment trying to make sure that you handle things accordingly. And then afterwards, you're saying, man, that was pretty wild, but I was really proud of the way that we, you know, competed and showed some resilience and grit.
How do you build that contingency into your practice plan moving forward?
You really don't have time to. I mean, you know, part of that is foundationally built based on what you do in OTAs and in training camp. But if you told me, you know, all right, hey, basically all the stuff that you had planned for, throw it out the window, you know, there's just not enough reps throughout the course. But you do try to establish foundational understanding of, all right, here's some of the different things that we can do based on these parameters that we're dealt, and whatever it is from a personnel or just matchup wise. And so that's what we did. Now, it doesn't mean there wasn't a couple things, but there was a lot of things that we were planning on doing that were definitely out the door because of that situation.
Does it feel like 22?
What's that?
Does it feel like 22?
I don't remember that year.
Sean, you're on the competition committee, correct?
Yes.
So, I'm not trying to look backwards, but would you, because they've changed the overtime rule in the playoffs, would you be in favor, even if you'd won that game?
Yeah, certainly. Here's what I would say. We were beneficiaries of it against Indianapolis last year in Week 4, where we took the ball and went down the field. Back and forth game like that, of course, you would love an opportunity. Now, there are reasons behind it relative to, okay, 17 games, you're extending the season, it's going to be 18 at some point, you know, lengthening the time of games, and that shortens it. But as a competitor, if you're asking me, you know, would we have liked an opportunity to be able to get a chance to try to go match based on losing a coin toss? The answer is yes. And I think all coaches would feel that way, but I know there are some bigger picture things. But yeah, that was something that you would like for sure. I thought they did really well. You know, I thought overall I was really pleased with our defense's pursuit to the football, the way that we took on blocks, with the exception of a couple plays, and give Montgomery a bunch of credit at the end, you know, where they were breaking some tackles. I thought when you flip the film on, you say, what does that unit look like? And I thought, you know, Jared and Braden were extensions of the other 9 guys around them when they were out there. I thought Jared made his presence felt on the very first play of the game. Obviously, it was a big sack that he had at the end of the half to prevent them from getting a chance to get any points. And then I thought Braden did some really good things. I mean, he's going to be relentless with his effort, with his energy. And I think there'll be some things that he can take that he can apply moving forward, just based on some situations that he was placed in against an excellent opponent with some different personnel groupings that he'll only improve because of the way he's wired. So overall, Adam, I was pleased with those guys.
So that's one guys that are on IR.
Yep.
They'll have they'll have the benefit of the bye. When they come back, is that how you guys are planning?
Yeah, that's the fortunate thing for us, Gary. Each of those three guys that you're talking about, those three guys, they each have unique injuries that, as of right now, it could keep them out longer than that. And so we'll see. What I think we want to be careful to do, and I've kind of learned this just through experience, let's not place expectations on when they're going to come back, because these guys are so conscientious. Let's allow them to be ready to go whenever their body says and when the doctors do say. And I know they're going to accelerate it and be ready as quickly as possible. I can't even think about anything other than having a good practice today, but we'll be great. We'll be better when we get those guys back. When that time is, I don't know, but to your point about the bye, it does give us a little bit of luxury of another week in between instead of having to miss a game because of where it falls. Okay? All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Bring up